You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. It's Thursday. It is noon Central. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. It is time once again for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. Hope you've been enjoying just the gamut of programming that's been hitting you. If you've been on the Pro this week, you've got your ear full of a lot of great, awesome live content. You got sneak previews of the huddle I did with Brian yesterday. It's going to go out on the network next week. You got a double dose of options boot camp. Everyone else is going to have to wait till next week for, of course, the great pro Q&A session earlier this week at Oddities coming up tomorrow. So a lot of great stuff going over there on the live. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go to join all of the fun. And of course, however you listen, live after the fact, maybe you're on an island in the middle of the nowhere. You download it ahead of time and you go out there and listen. However you listen, we don't judge. Keep rating and reviewing. Maybe a little hard on that island, but once you get back, keep rating and reviewing. Of course, if you have those questions, hit us up. You guys are not reticent about doing so. You know where to find us. So keep sending in those questions and comments. We do love to hear from all of you guys and gals out there. Let's see who we're hearing from on the old program today. First, I am pleased to say he is back. He has returned. He is the uncleist of Mike's from St. Charles Wealth Management. And now, dare I say it, the newest star blowing up YouTube. Uncle Mike, welcome back. I'm glad you can make time for us now outside of your busy YouTube content schedule, sir.
All the YouTube content you can want is going to be up on YouTube at some point. So anyway, happy to be here as always. And it's another exciting day in the markets. Can't wait to talk about it.
Uncle Mike is joining all the tweens as influencers over there on YouTube. He's coming at TikTok next. You better watch out, TikTok. All you tweens doing your dances, Uncle Mike's coming for you. So you better watch out. He's stealing your views. He's stealing your thunder. You know who's not doing any of that? We're going out to the shores of Maine now, listeners. He's like, YouTube, what's that? TikTok, what the heck is that? Shiba Inu, I have no idea. It's the Rock Lobster, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. Rock Lobster, welcome back to the program, and congratulations on your complete Ludditeness, sir.
Well, you know what? Somebody has to do it. That's all I can say. Somebody has to be the resident Luddite. Although I do have an iPhone, although it is 5 or 6 years old. Hint, hint on maybe a topic for today that we're discussing. But I do have some modern conveniences. I think we have the internet.
You don't need it. You got clam pirates and you got woodworking. You're living that 16th century life, and you're liking it. As we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the old block of trading. Let's see what's lighting up our screens today. Bit of a mixed second episode here, at least for the week. Not quite concluding the week yet. Got one more day left to go. We're seeing the Dow in the red, off about 0.15. We're seeing the S&P up almost 1/3%, and the NASDAQ also up about 1/3%. So S&P and NASDAQ getting a lift. The Dow getting dragged down a little bit. All that kind of mixed means vol is effectively unched from last Monday's show. In fact, I take it back. It is up 0.1. We were at 1690 on Monday's show. We're at a 17 coming into today's show on the old VIX cash. VVIX at about a 115, so still feeling frothy, even though it's down about 5 points from where it was on Monday. It was around a 120 when we posted that poll on Monday. Hint, hint. VXX at about a 20.5, down about a quarter from where it was on last show. And UVXY at about a 1535 puts it down not quite half a point, about 0.4 of a point. And VolQ coming into showtime also down to about 17.75. That puts it down about a full point from where it was on Monday's show. And a lot of interesting developments going on out there. Mr. Rock Lobster dropping his oh-so-subtle hints about Apple. Seems like there may be some news on that front. Mr. Rock Lobster, have at it, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, it's first off, you also have, you've got NVDA, right, posting monster earnings. And NVIDIA is trading like a biotech stock. I mean, and for all intents and purposes, massive, like the valuation of the company is just massive. Now, listen, it's a great company with great products, but ding dang, it's getting up there in market cap for a chip maker. And now earnings were great, and then Apple, I guess, has dropped it. They're trying to make a fully autonomous electric car by 2024. And this was on the heels of Rivian and Lucid, and I think there's another car maker that launched in Europe that actually uses solar power, if you can believe it. It's called, I think it's Sono. I got to look at my notes. I think it's SONO. I'll get the proper ticker here in a little bit. But so I mean, all things electric vehicles, right? Everybody's hot and heavy after this COP26. They're going to make electric vehicles, and golly jeepers, who knows how many elements will be pulled out of the earth to make the batteries and everything else. But it's certainly it's good enough for Apple to, I believe, make an all-time high today. So the march for Apple up is basically non-stop, and that's what we have. The odd thing is, it feels like every other stock on the market is down. Like, so I have like the ratio of stocks up to down, at least it's just on my ticker screen, feels like about 4-to-1. 4 down to the 1 up. So the very glamour tech stocks are up today. I guess Macy's an exception. And then I guess some of the European countries are losing their minds and locking their populations down again for the COVID scourge. So Pfizer, Regeneron, and Moderna, all those stocks are rallying. Because apparently there'll be no end in sight for their goodies that they produce. So I think Pfizer is actually almost back to its recent highs as well. So the COVID story is out, the Apple story is out, the NVIDIA story is out, and with all of that, we have market near an all-time high and VIX still around 17. So it's funny, it's the same story basically we've had all year. Not a whole lot of change, although it's a little more exciting with the advent of the potential Apple car. Yeah, this is I believe an all-time high for Pfizer right now. So if it closes here, so the COVID is still raging, but SPX doesn't really care. We have a new Fed chairman coming. We potentially have the bill for the blockbuster spending coming out today or tomorrow. So there's a lot of really weird currents. But the fact that, these big stocks are just ripping straight up, it's keeping volatility from coming down a lot, at least today. So I don't know how that will all settle out, but that's what we got as of right now.
A lot to unpack there. Yeah, this much ballyhooed Apple car, it's been in the wind for many years. There were a handful of big projects that were always rumored at Apple. One of them was the watch. Obviously, that finally came to fruition a few years ago. Another one was a TV, which they still really haven't done. They have the Apple TV kind of device, but no really standalone. They have things that are effectively those. They have those kind of Mac all-in-one devices, but no, you can't go buy your Apple TV at Best Buy. It's outside of, again, the streaming device. And, of course, this other oft-rumored next big project is the Apple car, and they've been hiring and firing developers and workers on that for years, and you've heard all kinds of rumors behind the scenes. Apparently, Bloomberg kicking that fire into overdrive again today with a story out there about how Apple aiming for the fully autonomous car. Again, nothing that most people don't know already out there, but a good time if you're Apple to strategically leak that kind of information. Obviously, Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, all these things are off to the races. If you want to get a little bit of that hype and that luster on yourself, maybe a good time to get Bloomberg pointing some of that attention your way. Seems to be working, at least from an options volume perspective. Well, let's go out now to a place we haven't visited in about a week. It is the land of St. Charles. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the program. Do you remember how to do this thing, sir?
I'll do my best, but today I'd like to make an announcement. St. Charles Wealth Management is coming out with an electric car.
Oh, there we go. If only you were publicly traded. Man, the stock would be surging right now.
Oh, shoot. That's right. I forgot about that. Never mind. Well, we're scrapping that idea. Forget about that. So anyway, yeah, the Apple car is definitely the news of the day in the marketplace today. The one thing that we're seeing on the S&P today is that we are having a hard time getting past 4,700. So we were up at 4,708 a little bit earlier today, and 4,700 has been kind of a tough nut to crack for the S&P recently. So that's definitely a key number. 10-year note is relatively flat on the day, and we don't have any downward selling pressure with that. It recovered a little bit from where it was these last few days. So we have had buyers in the 10-year note. So that's one point of note is that the levels with which we are right now in the 10-year are definitely towards the lower end of the range. It'll be interesting to see if we can bounce off them and get some buyers in there, or we stay there where we are, or who knows. The other thing with which I think it's important to note is just the discrepancy in the market uptick today. A lot of this is Apple, no question about that. If you look around the other areas of the market itself, the Dow's down 48 points on the day at this point. And so what's leading this market higher today, even though it's not significantly higher, I think it's definitely Apple with where it's going on here. When you have the Dow actually going downward and you have the S&P going up by 1/3%, there's definitely a little bit of a discrepancy on here. Looking through the sectors, XLK is up 0.84% on the day at this point, which is technology. Consumer discretionaries are also up, but everything else across the board is down, well, with the exception of healthcare, which is relatively flat. But for right now, this is not a broad-based rally today at all. I think it's just kind of everyone feeding off of Apple, and that's holding up the market at this stage. The other thing, like I said, that's hurting it, we have the 4,700 resistance that's going on as well. VIX is relatively flat, as you guys had mentioned earlier. And it's interesting to watch how the other stocks have reacted to Apple's project of 2024 that, let's be honest, it may or may not happen. But, and I think it will. I shouldn't say that, but I do think it will. But just how that one announcement, a lot of the competitors, people that are in the other potential competitors, kind of go running for the hills. So Apple is flexing its muscle today, just saying, we run this show. That's what I'm seeing today.
Well, they certainly are running the show from a volume perspective. Spoiler for a few minutes from now, listeners. Let's get into it here. Decent paper on the tape, in spite of what you may look at on the screen and think it's kind of a bit of a meandering day, but we're seeing some decent numbers out there. VIX at about 323,000 contracts right now. The ADV 423, so exactly 100K away out there right now. Pretty robust day, all things considered. SPY at about 2.8 million. The ADV 4.7 million out there, so well over half of its ADV already on the tape out there in SPY. The S looking pretty robust as well, 817,000 contracts. In the past, it's been close to 1 million sometimes at this level, and everything else is really kind of frothy out there. So it's active, but perhaps not quite as active as it has been at this time. On some other recent shows, the ADV is still a little bit shy of 1.5 million out there. The Q's already over a million, 1.1 million out there in the Q's. The ADV 1.55 million out there. And small caps on fire yet again, 584,000 contracts on the tape for IWM. ADV 766 out. That ADV has exploded as the volume has exploded of late out there as well. If you want more on small caps, RUT, the vol, the action, all that stuff, stay tuned for TWIFO. In a little bit over an hour, we got our old buddy, Mr. Dan Gramza, joining us there in the hot seat. If you listen to him on the show, he could talk to us about every one of these products to great lengths and very knowledgeable about all of them. So it should be a fun one coming up in a little over an hour. But let's get on out now to the top 10, what you folks are waiting for, the most active. This is where all the crazy business seems to be popping off in the market these days. And if you're saying to yourself, looks like it's a pretty active day from a top 10 perspective, you would be correct. We're closing in on 400K to break into the top 10 today, listeners. That is nothing to sneeze at. 387,000 contracts it cost you to break into the top 10. I can't remember the last time I saw it that high, listeners. That is some serious business. And that gets us to Palantir, our old friend Palantir, Mr. Rock Lobster's favorite. 387,000 contracts. We're already at 387. We're just at number 10. Some quiet days might cost you $1.30, $1.50 to break into the top 10. 387 would maybe be number 4. Not today. That's number 10. Number 9, we got good old Roblox back on the screen. Haven't seen them around in a little bit out there in kind of the mobile / kid-oriented gaming section out there. Looks like they're off $2.50 or about 2%. So decent volume day, that's for sure, out there in Roblox out there. Even though they've seen new price targets, everyone's talking Roblox as part of the new meta, the metaverse trend. Not enough to carry the stock. Looks like it was higher. It was 137 this morning, and then now just getting shellacked. It's gone from 137 down to 122 now. So it's net off $2.50 on the day. And of course, if you get from the highs earlier, it's down 15 handles. So obviously, people have soured on its options for the metaverse. Number 8, Amazon. We're already at 500,000 listeners. Number 8, 516,000. I can't remember the last time the top 10 was this dense. That gets you to Amazon. Number 7, it's Baba. What the heck's going on in China today? You could pretty much fill a whole show with just that, listeners. Baba, number 7, 580,000. Number 4, I was talking about this with Brian yesterday. Is this a meme stock? Ford? It doesn't meet all the criteria. It's not heavily shorted. It actually makes some money. But if you're talking about kind of insane price action of late, that certainly fits the meme criteria. Ford was hanging out at about $20 earlier today. Looks like they've given up some of that ghost. They're actually north of 20. They're at about 2016, down to about 19.5, off about $0.50 now, but still good for 651,000. Tell me that's not a meme stock, listener. It's putting up some numbers. Number 5, AMD. Looks like only one half of the symbol Twinology out there today. That's still good for 698,000. That's usually sometimes enough for nearly number 1 on our list, but that's only number 5, listeners. Number 4, it's Lucid. Everything electric cars on fire again. Lucid, 783,000 contracts for number 4. Number 3, yes, I said number 3. How dare they? How dare they push it down to number 3? It's Tesla. It's the giver of all vol, it seems like these days in the market. Driver of all headlines. It's Tesla. Only number 3, a meager 861,000 contracts. That's nothing. That's a rounding error today, listeners, because they're coming for it today. Number 2, it's NVDA, fighting its way all the way up to number 2. They blew the doors off their expectations, and they're doing 1.16 million contracts right now. Stock's up $22 or about 7.5%, trading a little bit shy of $315 out there right now. So a good day for NVIDIA. You say that's over a million. It's not even number 1. What the heck is number 1? I think you can probably guess. It's Apple. It's kicking it into another gear, pun intended, because of the car, listeners. Almost 2.25 million contracts on the tape. I can't remember the last time I saw Apple hitting levels like this. So it's kind of the perfect storm. Apple already does a lot of paper. Now you're getting it invoked in the Tesla EV conversation. It's the perfect storm for vol, for price action, and obviously for some options volume. Lately we've seen a lot of other names kind of kicking Apple to the curb a little bit from a volume perspective. Apple will still be there number 5 or something, but all these other hot names were kind of stealing its thunder a little bit. Apple, perhaps strategically leaking to Bloomberg what's going on, or maybe just getting them to refocus on this story a little bit again. Whatever precipitated this, obviously working, getting Apple back in that sexy EV conversation, and certainly translating into a metric ton of options paper out there. Listen, let's go on out and see what else we got. It's still a pretty active week from an earnings perspective. We kicked it off on Monday with WeWork. We kind of mocked that on Monday. We said, really, is it a surprise to anyone that office sharing still perhaps not in vogue? Tuesday, we had Home Depot, Walmart, and Stone Cold, our old friend Stone Cold. Wednesday, we had Target, Lowe's, NVDA, our old friend NVDA there, just talked about them. Cisco, Victoria's Secret, and HP. Thursday, today, we got Alibaba, Macy's, Kohl's, Petco, BJ's, Intuit, Bath & Body Works, and Williams-Sonoma, and Foot Locker tomorrow. We got some earnings move results reports right now, hot off the presses, right in your hot little hands as we speak, listeners. Let's get to them. Let's see from our friends over there at ORAT's. BJ's was out before the bell. They were $60 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 6.6%. They delivered, listeners, get this, 14.5%. So I think it's safe to say they outperformed, listeners. They're up 20% almost now. So they're on the rampage. They were 68.5 when they ran this report. They're 71.5 now. So they're blowing the doors off this straddle. We were talking about, it seemed like they were pricing in some interesting juice on the kind of retail wholesale club sector, and that seems to be merited. Baba, you almost can't put enough juice in these Chinese names right now. Baba, today before the bell, 161.5 is where they were trading going into their announcement. They were pricing in 5.1%. I think in hindsight, you can probably guess that's probably not enough, listeners. And it was not. Nearly 11%, 10.8% as of this report. And let's see. Let's pull it up right now and see if it's moved anymore. Probably has since then. Let's see. It was at 144.18 when they ran this report. It's about almost 145 right now. So has moved a little bit since then. Might cover your ears. It's Cisco. They were yesterday after the bell. 56.75 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 4.5%. They delivered 8.3%. Man, just blowing the doors off here, which is, again, not something we have seen in coming up on 2 years. Macy's before the bell today, they were pricing in 10.6%, which is a freaking ton of juice for Macy's. Listen, of course, we have talked about them of late. They have been popping up on some of our unusual activity scans with more frequency than you might expect for a relatively staid name like Macy's. And blowing the doors off it as well. They were pricing in, 10.6%. They delivered 19%, and they're up 22.3% now. My goodness. NVIDIA, we already talked about them. They were pricing in 5.9%. They had delivered at the time about 9%. I'm sure that has gapped up even for, they're up still about 9% right now. So, big move out there in NVIDIA. You remember, you guys can get these for yourselves, theoptionsinsider.com. Some people have written into us lately saying, hey, where do I find those again? Theoptionsinsider.com. One guy was going to Options Insider. That's not us. I don't know what that is. So I'm sure some squatter has taken that and tried to make it look like us, but it is not us. We are theoptionsinsider.com. Then click on the Options News and Articles tab, and that is where you will find all of these earnings move results, earnings season, and now, because you wanted more, you get the earnings season trade reports. So just all kinds of stuff going on. The season now, I hate to break it to you listeners, it has dropped below the 100% level. How dare it, the temerity. 98%. That is still an enormous amount of performance given certainly what we've seen over the last 18 or so months. 98% right now. We've got week 6 here at a week 85%. So I named some big names that were outperforming. Obviously, others have underperformed because we're at 85% right now. Last week was 97%. The week before that, 116%. That remains the standout for the cycle. The week before that, 90%. The week before that, 57%. And week 1 was 98%. So still, this is the most green we've ever seen, certainly since the pandemic kicked off out here. And 98% is nothing to sneeze at. If you go out to the earnings trades reports for yourself, you can see the latest updates on the buying straddles, selling straddles, buying calendars, and selling calendars out there. Looks like they just closed one out here on this report in, Bath & Body Works. That's what this one is. So, they closed one out. They could see their performance here. They closed the straddle out in Bath & Body Works on this report. You can see how that performed, how all these other strategies have performed. And they even break it down for you by week. What's the best week to buy a straddle during earnings season? What's the best week to sell a straddle? Maybe you want to buy a calendar. Maybe you want to sell a calendar. That's the report for you. And you can't beat the price. It is freaking free. I don't know how many more times I could say that. This data didn't exist until not that long ago. And if you did get it, it went through a proprietary house like a Goldman or a Morgan, and they were going to charge you an arm and a leg for it because you had to be a client. Nope, not so much with us. You get it for free. So enjoy it. Get off to the races. Let's look really quickly. We got some popping off today after the bell. We got into it after the bell. 635 is where they're trading. Man, that's rich for Intuit. They're pricing in 1684. They're pricing in 2270. In the past, they've moved 1684. So they're pricing in a lot of Jews in Intel. Let's see. Let's go out to Williams-Sonoma, everyone's favorite name out here. 210 is where they were trading as of this report. They're pricing in 1278. Get this, listeners. In the past, they've moved $20.76. They have annihilated this vol in Williams-Sonoma. My goodness. Not a name that I track on a regular basis, but I may be tuning in to Williams-Sonoma a little more after this. Then we've got, Foot Locker popping off tomorrow. Let's see, before the bell, they're at 55.60. All you sneakerheads out there, they're pricing in $4.50. In the past, they moved $4. So interesting stuff. Unless you think earnings season is drawing to a close, not yet, listeners. We've got next week. We got Zoom coming up next week. We've got Best Buy coming up next week. Brian just talking about them on his OPR show. I want to hear an interesting trade idea. Check that one out. We've got Dick's Sporting Goods. We've got Dell. Got a bunch of other names popping off. And we have all the reports for all that stuff and a whole bunch more. Now you know where to go. TheOptionsInsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab, and you are off to the races. Meanwhile, we are off to the races. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, we get crazy, listeners. And it looks like, we got some craziness afoot. Sometimes, listeners, we run things earlier. This Eye of Sauron is kind of running all the time, listeners. And usually it has some interesting stuff we could get to. We have a chance to look at it maybe before the show. Sometimes, days like today where things are popping off all the time, it's kind of running and it's just pulling up stuff for us on the fly during the show. So these are hot and heavy ones right off the presses, right off of the Eye of Sauron. And we haven't even had a chance to look at these yet. So we're all going to look at them together, listeners, and see what the heck is up. Let's go out to this one first. This is one, I believe we talked about this before, but it's been quite some time. This is Nutrien Limited, ticker symbol NTR. This is a Canadian fertilizer company, so you might not expect it to be the sexiest of names, but we shall see. We shall find out. Our Eye of Sauron has found something out here. And this thing's trading $68.50 right now. The ticker symbol, like I said, NTR. It's had a good run. A year ago, it was trading $44. So it's had a nice pop, $24 and change, or about almost 55% over the course of the past year. And it's been pretty much straight up with a few exceptions over the course of the past year. Got up to, on our favorite day, right around the June 8th time frame. Started topping out around June 8th. It kept trending till about June 11th, 64.90. So a nice run to there, which is obviously not that far from where it is right now. Then it sold off a bit down to about 58, 57 or so. And then it started rallying again. That was in August, started rallying again. And it got up to its 52-week high of 73.5. That was right around October 19th. So not that long ago, about a month ago. And then it's kind of been drifting lower pretty much ever since, down to where we are right now, $68.50. So still net a good year, even if the last month has been kind of a little bit of a pullback out there for this Canadian fertilizer company. And let's see, what did our Eye of Sauron find out here in good old NTR? Looks like a couple of things, listeners. First off, they came up to us and said, hey, found these 20,000 lots. We knew there had to be some interesting prints out there today. So when we found some small stuff, we said, that was interesting. Go back and find us more. And it did, listeners. It's a very obedient Eye of Sauron. And it pulled up the June 80s going up in NTR 20,000 times today, for $1.95, lifting the offer over there. It's like on the Amex. This is a 28 vol, if you are so inclined. These were opening, of course. Most of our trades tend to be, and the stock was, let's see, a little bit lower, 68.06 when this trade went up. And we said, it looks interesting, but maybe see if there's anything else attached to that. And then it came back and found us, yes, there actually is. There was the 105 call. So they actually did the 80-105 call spread in June. Mr. Rocklaps is going to love these. They sold the 105s 20,000 times for a nickel. They hit the bid on these bad boys. So they ended up doing that spread for $1.90. Mr. Rock Lobster, a lot to unpack here. What are your thoughts on everyone's favorite sector, the Canadian fertilizer sector? A hot one. Forget EVs. Canadian fertilizer is where the action is right now. And then the June 80s by themselves, because that's really obviously the lion's share of this trade. What are your thoughts on that? It's a pretty optimistic trade. Obviously, they topped out at 73.5 this year. And then above and beyond that, because he wanted to defray his nearly $2 outlay, he sold the 105s for a nickel, sir. Have at it.
You served that up to me like a hanging curveball, I think.
I had a feeling you might want to sink your teeth into this one.
So first off, this is a stock. So the fertilizer, the inflation, all that kind of stuff. Also, I don't know if they sell stuff for pot makers, but I know just from anecdotal stuff that anybody that sells anything for people that grow pot, the medium and all the media that they use or dirt or whatever is just, they basically can't make enough of it right now. So I don't know if NTR makes pot stuff, but I would see that could be part of the reason why they're, the stock has been doing pretty well this last year. I would have to say though that these are pretty bullish calls, although the price is right. 28 vol, which is not bad. This is not a mover of a stock though by any stretch. I don't think the 80s are a terrible purchase. Why you bother to sell the 105s, I do not know. Because, you look at this, and as soon as they sell the 105s for a nickel, somebody is 15-cent bid for the 105s there. So it's a little bit of, it feels like it's a slightly annoying trade for whoever sold the 105s. But of course, our test of a good option trade or one that you really like, I don't know if that's a good test or not, but it is our test. So in a stock like this, kind of a slow mover, these options are already 215 bid going into today, although the spread hasn't changed value at all because the 105s are 15-cent bid.
They bid up those stupid options that they sold for a nickel.
Yeah.
So they ended up screwing themselves with this ridiculous sale. Yeah, listeners, spoiler alert, don't do that. Don't sell something for a nickel.
A nickel with 9 months to go or 8 months to go is just, I don't think it's worth selling anything for a nickel ever, to be honest. So I just, in this case, I just don't get that. Anyway, and that's where we sit on this particular one. I don't think the 80s are a bad purchase. It would take it. My biggest problem with that is it takes this stock a while to kind of generate that kind of a move, to be honest. But the earnings are starting to grow off the hook, so to speak. And I don't know if it has to do with pot or not. As a fertilizer company, but it is experiencing some big earnings growth. So I guess there's a shot. And it's not bad. It's not my favorite thing, but it's not bad.
Well, you're more favorable.
Except for that nickel sale.
Yeah, you're more favorable to the 80s than I thought, but I knew you would not like the 105. Yeah, what are you doing there? You're capping all your upside. You're getting nothing. You're bid in your face. You made your spread work. It's just stupid on every level. Do not do this, listeners. Do not do this. All right, let's go on out to another. Oh, this is a repeat offender. We were just talking about them a few days ago. We just paid off, I think, on our last show. We just paid off a trade on this one. Now we have a new one, perhaps. Let's see. We shall see to add to our files. We're back out to Constellium. This is everyone's favorite manufacturer of rolled aluminum. Yes, they're back, listeners. I think our Eye of Sauron likes rolled aluminum as much as I like to say it. So, ticker symbol CSTM, trading today 1868. I won't bore you with all the gory details. We just talked about this on Monday. Suffice to say, a year ago, it was trading $12. It's had a nice run. It got up to a 52-week high of 2160 on September 3rd, a dark day in the world, and then has since trended lower to about 1868, where it is right now. What did our Eye of Sauron find, you might ask? Well, it looks like we're back to looks like some line in the sand puts, Mr. Rock Lobster. Maybe perhaps you have a different interpretation. These are not in the monthlies. These are in the weeklies. These are the Ds expiring on the 23rd, because you know the expirations are all screwy there on December because of course, all the myriad holidays out there. Friday is the 24th, so you're not expiring then. So these are expiring on the Thursday of the week after traditional expiration. So they went a little bit beyond, which is interesting. And they blasted out, looks like 6,200 of these bad boys for 32 cents, as the Irish like to say. That's a 49 vol if you are intrigued. And the stock was pretty much right around here, 1877, when this trade went up. There are no earnings in the lifespan of this option. The next earnings are in February, late February next year. You got a while to go here. So looks like, Mr. Rock Lobster, we got ye old line in the sand trying to harvest a little bit of the old premium from the rolled aluminum manufacturer. They're getting 32 cents for it. This thing hasn't really threatened the 16.5 level. It bounced off it on July 19th. It hit 1654 and bounced off it. Before that, it hasn't really hit that level since, looks like, about May of this year. And it flirted with it then. And then before, you got to go all the way back to, earlier in this year when it was low below that. So it's got to have a pretty decent turnaround here by Dece 23rd, really, an extra week to have this one just blow up in his face. What do you think of these line in the sand puts in everyone's favorite manufacturer of rolled aluminum, Constellium, sir?
Once again, as the listeners well know, I still think you picked some of these names just so you could say the words and phrases which are near and dear.
I have no
to
control over the Eye of Sauron. He is an independent contractor. He floats around whatever you can't. How do you control a big fiery ball in the sky? You cannot, sir. It's impossible.
I guess not. But I get the what was the guy's name on The Simpsons? Mr. Burns, right? I get the feeling of Longo looking over Constellium and saying, what kind of put can they sell today in Constellium? So I could say rolled aluminum. I still feel that is something that happens, but I have no direct proof of that. So it's only rampant speculation, of course. As far as this one goes, I think, yeah, it does feel like a line in the sand put. Looking cycle-wise, it does look like a line in the sand put. It's not a bad one. A little more aggressive than we normally see. But that doesn't mean it can't work. So I like this. I think the commodity boom is going to be here to stay for a little while. And in this case, I don't think this is a bad one. Commodity stocks really don't. When they're in kind of an uptrend for prices, they tend to sort of are stable. So I don't think this is a bad price. And whoever sold this, looks like they're happy with kind of getting in at the year lows, is what it appears. So at least let's see, what's the low of the year here? It's around 15.27, and they're selling the 16.5. So I think they're like, okay, I'll take the year low here and be happy. So I don't think it's a terrible sale for somebody who wants to own a commodity stock and generate about 2% on risk between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't hate this one either. I like this one better than your other June 80s that you love so much there. Definitely better than the selling the June 105s. I'm going to put that out there. Not a fan of those at all. Let's go on out to our final 9. We've been putting too many in the document to keep an eye of. Our Eye of Sauron's going to blow up tracking all these things. So instead, we're going to have to take one out now. We're going to go back to June 7th, all the way to the heady days of June 7th. Can you even remember back that far, listeners? Let's try. We were talking about DocuSign at the time, ticker symbol DOCU, D-O-C-U. They're going to docu some pay out there. At the time, we profiled a 5,000 lot of, these are definitely MEFI. These are the Nove 200 calls going up for $49.50. Yeah, these were pretty beefy. Looks like somebody wanted to get maybe some stock replacement action going on. The stock was $240.70 pretty much when they went up. So you could tell, obviously, a lot of pretty much effectively a stock replacement type trade. You're going 40 handles in the money. These were a 40.5 vol, so fairly rich for a online document signing company, effectively. And they liked these. These were on June 7th. They put those 5,000 lot up. We said we were going to watch them. They liked doing them, obviously, because they came back in about, on the 16th. So not that long after the initial trade, which was on the 7th. And they doubled the OI. They did another 5,000. So they put a total of 10,000 of these bad boys on. They did those when the second leg, when the options were somewhere around $60. I don't have the exact print on that one. I'll have to go find it. But either way, they liked it. They doubled the OI. So there were 10,000 of these bad boys open. Someone really wanted some beefy, dare I say it, meefy call action out here. And let's look at the stock over the course of that run. It's had a decent run. It's up to 264, almost and a half right now. So I said it was 240.70 when this trade went up. So up close to $25 since this trade has gone up out here. So nice pop. Let's see. It got up to as high. Oh, it got up over 300. Got up to 308.5 on. It looks like intraday got up to maybe 314 on. Yeah, and that pop in July. So they had a nice run on this one. And looks like they didn't take them off. They kept them on. So they didn't quite get the top out, but they're expiring this week. They're expiring soon. And so they have to do something with them. And so it looks like they came in. They didn't ride them. A lot of times you've seen these big, beefy trades just get ridden to expiration for some inexplicable reason. This time they did not do that. They closed them out last week. They closed them out on the 10th. And they took them off for $65.24. So they obviously made around 15, almost $16 on that first 5,000 lot. If they did the second one around $60, and obviously they only made about $5. Still, 15, nearly $16 on 5,000 contracts. It's a cool, nearly $8 million. Nothing to sneeze at. And of course, they made some more on the second leg. But they took that money and put it back to work because they didn't just close them out. They rolled to the Jan 250s. So they rolled up 50 handles. And they bought those 10,000 times for about $29, I should say, $28.99. And it's about the similar vol level, 42.70 out there. So they're going a little bit closer to at the money now, which is interesting. They were $40 in the money before. Now they're only about $14 in the money. So very different contract. Obviously, they didn't want to spend that much again, it seems like. But still, they made money, and then they turned around and spent it, and then some. They pretty much defrayed half the cost of their roll, effectively. They still had to spend another close to $15 on this thing. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, what say you on this guy? He was pretty right. He took a pretty heavy bet on some effectively stock at this point. The stock exploded up north of 300. They didn't take it off. Instead, they rode it all the way pretty much into expiration, where they ended up closing them out, still for a winner, still for a decent winner, and then rolling them again, this time out and up to a higher strike, this time the Jan 250, sir. So they're keeping the love alive. What say you?
This isn't too bad. I mean, the house money roll, they've got $15 on it. What surprises me is that they only rolled out 3 months. So that's still a pretty bullish sign as far as I can tell. I mean, they're only going 3 months out and they rolled up 50 handles. Still bullish, but I have to say that's a pretty good ride on 1 million shares. That's not a bad chunk of change for that trade.
Not bad. So I guess I said we were paying it off, but now do we have to keep an eye on the second leg now? Have we not done anything? Or do we have to keep this trade on now to watch it again? Have we done nothing, sir? Have we taken notes?
I guess you accomplished absolutely nothing.
We accomplished absolutely nothing. We have to keep watching oh, my goodness. I thought we were going to clear one out. Instead, we've just added a new leg. Okay, listeners, because we like you, we will watch the second leg of this. And also because we liked you and because we know you missed it on Monday, it is time for a very rare Thursday edition of the Strategy Block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
Yes, listeners, I had to drag him kicking and screaming away from live streaming on YouTube and Twitch right now. He's just blowing up the online content world as we speak. Luckily, he has deigned to allot us a few minutes out here today. Mr. Uncle Mike, it's that time of year. We all know what the kids want to talk about. They want to talk taxes, sir. Have at it.
Yeah, I wish my kids wanted to talk about taxes. It's one of the few things that, with their Christmas presents, taxes are one of the few things that I pay less of, or at least it sure feels like that way anyway. On a serious note, there's what's coming up towards the end of the year. You have to have a plan for your trading in terms of what you're going to do with your taxes. And today I want to talk about 1256 contracts. I've talked about these on the show many times in the past, but I think now is a pretty timely time to go over them. First off, what is a 1256 contract? 1256 contracts are specific contracts, they're option contracts that are given 1256 status. The biggest example of a 1256 contract that we'll talk about on this show is the SPX. The options trade the same from the standpoint of call movement, put movement, the same as any other contract. But what makes them a 1256 contract, or what that actually does, is it gives them a special type of tax treatment. So let's say that I buy a call on Google and I sell a call, and I sell the call a couple days later on Google, and I have a $100 profit on it. Well, that $100 profit will go down as 100% of a short-term gain. Now, let's say that I buy a call option on the SPX and I sell it a couple days later for a $100 profit. Well, that goes down as a 60% long-term capital gain, 40% is a short-term capital gain. So what's beneficial about a 1256 contract is the fact that you get that special tax treatment. Now, with that, where I want to go with this is twofold. Number one, make sure you have an understanding of this if you are looking to, so you have an understanding of that, because a lot of accountants aren't familiar with that. And so just have an understanding of it. Tell him it's a 1256 contract, or just tell him to be on the lookout for it. He'll do his research while you're not looking, and then he'll understand it for the rest of your taxes if he doesn't. Most likely, I would say it's not, there's just a lot of them that don't, but a lot of them that do as well. And if they don't, they can learn it very quickly. The second thing I want to make mention of is the fact that of course, you have to plan for your gains and losses and things like that, but also understand that with a 1256 contract, you have something called mark-to-market. And so what that means is that at the end of the year, let's say that you're on December 31st, that your 1256 contract that you bought in November is showing a, $100 gain. Well, that $100 gain is going to be recorded by your broker, and it's going to be sent out on your tax forms, and you're going to have to pay that $100 or pay for that $100 gain that you have in the position, even though you haven't closed the position as of yet. So with that, you'll still have the 60/40 tax treatment, but just understand that with mark-to-market, at the end of the year, you have to pay whatever it is, regardless of whether you close out the position or not. So come January 1st, it's as if you sold the position on December 31st at the close, and then you will have said, rung in the new year, said Happy New Year, and then on January 1st, you bought the position again. And that's how the tax treatment will be of that when working with it. So on there, I think there's a lot of places where a 1256 contract can come in handy within your portfolio, whether you're using SPX options to hedge your overall portfolio, or whether you're just trading options on the SPX or other contracts. SPX isn't the only one. I think it makes sense to at least have a knowledge of it, and that was the purpose of today, our strategy block for a rare Thursday edition.
Very rare Thursday edition. Hope you enjoyed that, folks. As we keep on rolling, it is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, welcome to Around the Block, of course, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next show on Monday. And Uncle Mike, that tax stuff, I mean, does it get any sexier than that? If you could maybe throw a few dance moves onto that and then you post that on TikTok, man, the kids are going to be flocking to you, sir. What do you think?
Oh, that'd be nice. I'm just starting to try and figure out this whole TikTok thing with my own kids. You got Twitter, you got Snapchat, you got all these things out there. It's crazy. So maybe I'll start putting out information on Snapchat to have my kids promote me on their sites. So in terms of what I'm looking at around the block, like I was talking about at the beginning of the show, I think 4,700 is a very key number in the S&P 500 right now. We've not gotten by that with any strength as of yet. So watching that, also watching the 10-year note, we're at a lower end of the range right now and seeing if we can hold the levels with which we are on the 10-year. And then the other thing that I'm watching is we might get something happening in the energy world. So in other words, no one's really talking about oil right now. It just kind of not fizzled out, but just kind of sitting there at this point. And so are we going to get another leg up, or is this just kind of the roof being built, if you will? And that is what I'm watching.
And Mr. Rock Lobster, when you're not busy busting out your own super sexy dance moves for the TikTok generation, sir, what is lighting up your screen? What are you keeping an eye on until our next show, sir?
So a couple of big things are we going to have a new Fed chairman. I can't quite tell from the signals from the White House.
It certainly seems like Powell ain't getting the love, doesn't it?
It's, and from what I hear from my guy on the, my kind of inside track guy, Biden gets along well with Powell. So, but
they're certainly dragging him through the ringer if he likes him.
Yeah. So that part is definitely, I think that's holding volatility up somewhat. Also, what the CBOE is going to score this spending bill. How much is it actually going to cost? And are they going to haul this behemoth across the finish line? So I'm seeing how those things affect broader markets. I think today is basically all Apple and all NVDA, which are now $3 trillion worth of market cap in two stocks. We used to laugh, I guess, when there was going to be $1 trillion market cap stock, and now I think we have several, right? I think Google made an all-time high today as well. So the Qs are just, the outlook for tech is, enormous. What else are you going to say, right? What else are you going to say? Just for all of you that missed the rally, the Qs, the dead low of the Qs was $163 at the bottom of the COVID crisis. It is way over 100% from the bottom at this point, trading 400, crossing the 400 handle. So I think all-time highs for the Qs today. So, tech is definitely, it is not slowing down. And this metaverse thing, chips, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I'm seeing if we can actually get something settled as far as the government goes, and to see if the market can move past it, because vol is still not selling off. And again, I don't think there's really a reason for it to sell off, at least today or tomorrow, while these sort of bigger questions are hanging up in the air, because new Fed chairman and 4.342, I can't even count the trillions anymore spending. Kind of hard. The market has to kind of get past that number first. So we'll see what happens.
But there is no spending, Mr. Rock Lobster, because it's all paid for. It's like the Fed, pay no attention to the inflation. It's all transitory. But that music, listeners, means we're coming to the end of yet another fun sojourn through the world of options. But if you're in the Fun Secret Club, you're hanging out with us, don't worry, you don't have to go anywhere. We'll be back in exactly half an hour with Dan the Man holding down all the courts on the world of futures. We'll see what's making the TWIFO report this week. We'll have to find out. I'm guessing maybe energy probably going to be there, probably some equities. Who knows what else is going to make it onto the tape. You got to tune in to find out. We're going to go deep into all that stuff. In the meantime, we'll put some fun stuff in the live stream for you. But before we go, by the way, make sure if you haven't done so already, our poll expires tomorrow. So get out there if you haven't voted in our question of the week. We asked you a pretty straightforward one this week. Which of these tradable products is the most, all caps, most volatile right now? And we're not going crazy, just kind of straight front month at the money kind of thing. Which one is the highest? Gave you 4 choices: Tesla, Bitcoin, Nat Gas, and VIX. All things that are synonymous with volatility. In the case of VIX, it literally is volatility. What is your vote? Get out there and make your voice heard. As we go around the horn, let's go back to Uncle Mike, sir. If folks want to check you out dancing on the old YouTubes, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Oh, I got all sorts of places to have them go now. I just put out my first ever YouTube video. I'm going to have a lot of those in the near future. So just go on YouTube to St. Charles Wealth, search St. Charles Wealth Management, and you'll find my first video on there. Subscribe. I would love to have you have people as subscribers. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW. And you can check me out on my website, stcharleswealth.com. All of this if you are looking for a financial advisor who uses the option product. There's not a lot of us out there.
You'll be happy to know while you were talking, I just subscribed to you, sir. Driving that count up. I think I may have doubled your subscribers out there. So good stuff. I like it. Get on over there. Find them, St. Charles Wealth Management. We tweeted out the link. You can find it there if you follow us as well, listeners. Give them a follow if you want to see Uncle Mike's face right up and close in yours, maybe with some cool dance moves. I can't promise the dance moves. Maybe we'll see. St. Charles Wealth Management is the place to go on YouTube. How fun is that to say? And this guy ain't on YouTube, but we'll find out anyway what he's up to. Mr. Rock Lobster, if folks want to check out what you got cooking, where should they go? What should they do?
Oh, go to optionpit.com and go to memberships and find something. You got Vol Trade Club, you got Capital Gains, you got Trading Legion, all kinds of ways to learn how to trade options.
There you go. Check him out. Maybe someday we'll get him on the old YouTubes for some dancing purposes as well. And don't worry, like I said, we got some fun stuff coming up in exactly half an hour. We're going to dive deep into the crazy, mad world of all things futures options in a little bit. And, of course, you get some fun stuff coming in live. Tomorrow, we're back at you noon Central with Vol Views. Then after that, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern for the one, the only Options Oddities. Then, of course, back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. We'll see you then.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.